Welcome back, CT fam. 80s babies especially. Hard to believe that 1994 was 30 whole years ago now, ain't it? I'm your girl QB here with Culturalist Theory, and this time we're bringing you our top 10 R&B albums from the 9 trade plus 1. This one's gonna be pretty straightforward, so what's understood doesn't need to be explained. Be sure to like, follow, and subscribe to our channel if you haven't already so you don't miss a list. Put a 1994 on our super thanks, and who knows, we might just have a little surprise for you guys. But enough of the pregame talk, let's get to it. Number 10, Changing Faces, Changing Faces. Not to be overlooked by all the poppin' trios of the day, this NYC duo was here to make their voices heard with a heavy assist from that guy you love to hate so much. But once you press play on your cassette deck or favorite music app to get this eponymous debut project going, you won't have much time to even think about all that. But by the same token, his platinum and gold tendencies rub directly off on Cassandra Lucas and Charisse Rose with their unmistakable classic hit, Stroke You Up. Only one step away from topping the hip hop and R&B charts, and 2 steps down from the primary position on Billboard 100, this sultry, mood-setting tune has aged like fine wine. Its follow-up single, Foolin' Around, which also happens to be track number 2 on said album, likewise plateaued within the top 10 of the hip hop and R&B list of the time. More interesting though, dare we say it, is the eerie similarity to one-hit wonder Moke and Steph's He's Mine that followed the year after. Just a little food for thought. The Devontae Swing written and produced Keep It Right There didn't chart anywhere near as high as its predecessors, but we're not hitting the skip button on it when it comes up, just saying. Some additional standouts come by way of Come Closer, Good Thing, and Baby Your Love, which was produced and co-written by the late Heavy D. That likely explains the Candy Rain vibes. If you know, you know. With overall production and vocals holding steady, 13 tracks strong, this was a solid debut outing. Number 9, Rhythm of Love, Anita Baker. Of our 10 picks for this list, Rhythm of Love is truly the only record here completely free of any of the era's hip-hop vibes, firmly rooted in the grown folks music section of R&B. And Anita wouldn't have it any other way, thank you very much. On lead single Body and Soul, she's just as perfect in her element as she was 4 years prior when you last heard her voice. I Apologize was the only other track to receive a video, on top of grabbing the Grammy in the 9-5 for Best Female R&B Vocal Performance. I never meant to treat my baby that way. Being the complete focal point in the related video, leave it to the king of pop to take a bit of inspiration from said clip and weave it into his visuals for You Are Not Alone the following year. Anita's potent vocals continue to shine throughout on tracks such as Only for a While, the quite jazzy Sometimes I Wonder Why, and the classic It's Been You. She also does justice to the handful of covers she tackles, including The Look of Love, You Belong to Me, and My Funny Valentine. The latter would be a song that another young lady further up this list would belt out on Star Search. Severing ties with her longtime label Elektra soon after this album's life cycle, Rhythm of Love topped the hip hop and R&B charts, touched the number 3 position on Billboard 200, and moved 2 million plus CDs, records, and tapes in less than 6 months of its release, thus proving that sometimes the good old-fashioned way of doing things is all you need to succeed. Although Ms. Baker has yet to make nice with Spotify, you can still catch this, along with the majority of her other records, on YouTube Music and Napster. Number 8, Get Up On It, Keith Sweat. Harlem's OG Mr. Ain't Too Proud to Beg himself, Keith Sweat delivered his 4th LP in the summer of '94 with just a little more than we bargained for. The L in TLC, Lisa Left Eye Lopez, injects her brand of sexy on lead single How Do You Like It, as well as its part 2 gangsta mix. In our opinion, it doesn't sound different enough to warrant its inclusion or existence in the manner of, say, Kelly's Sex Me Part 2, or Tupac's California Love remix featuring Roger Troutman. And while we're on the subject of Troutman, he and his voice box get put to plenty of good use on Put Your Lovin' Through the Test. We get our first taste of Sweat's newfound girl trio Cut Close on the title track, which also found its way on their one and done album Surrender in '95. The mid-tempo groove became a staple of 90s R&B, despite it never cracking the top 10 on any given Billboard chart. You'll also hear Athena specifically supplying ad-libs on the album's closing, For You, You Got Everything. Additional goodies to make you feel like getting up on something include Come Into My Bedroom, When I Give My Love, and Grind on You. Whereas My Whole World is one of the few jams that's not about the art of bump and grind. Get Up On It continued Keith's string of platinum certified albums in the 90s, on top of being his 4th consecutive #1 album regarding the hip hop and R&B charts. Even with I'll Give All My Love to You and his eponymous 96 effort being more appreciated works of his, this album right here should be the next one in line played behind those classics. Number 7, Bedtime Stories, Madonna. Now, before you go grabbing your device to type out things you never tell us face to face, those in the know are well aware that Madonna had that one dope album that was done in the key of R&B. For those that slept, that project was Bedtime Stories, her 6th studio album overall. Sounding nothing like its predecessor Erotica from 2 years before, she summoned the pens of Babyface, Dallas Austin, and Dave Hall, while also utilizing samples from Herbie Hancock and the Gap Band, just to name a few. And it wasn't until we did our research that we realized that even Main Source served as a source of inspiration for the album's final single, Human Nature. Sure, Large Professor was long gone by the time What You Need dropped, but that didn't stop her from jacking its booming bass line and drums and presenting it to a much broader audience. As for those cornrows she rocked in the video though, nah, we can't give her a pass on that. If the phrase "it sounds like her, but at the same time it doesn't" was personified, that lead single Secret will be a prime example. It's a smooth mid-tempo R&B track that's a bit safe, yet still interesting.
My baby's got a secret.
Placing at number 3 on the Billboard 100 in tandem with its gold selling certification is indication that it worked. Fresh on the scene, label mate Michelle Indiagocello spread some sounds of blackness on that bop I'd Rather Be Your Lover, and once the additive melody of Don't Stop gets in your head, you'll be singing la-di-da-di, just like she instructs you to. We're also keeping Sanctuary and Forbidden Love in the loop. When dropping an album with 10+1 tracks, there's very little room for error. And for this one time that Madonna served the R&B crowd, she managed to do it very well with Bedtime Stories. Number 6, pronounced Janae, Janae. So yeah, you might be old enough to remember the 2 albums and through duo Floetry from across the pond of the early 2000s. However, there was another female duo that also had a short but sweet run in a decade before them, and that would be Philadelphia's own Renee Neufeld, aka Young Mike, and Jean Norris, aka Late Mike. Hey, if you get it, you got it. After first cutting their teeth as background vocalists on DJ Jazzy Jeff's and the Fresh Prince's single Ring My Bell in '91, their lives were soon turned upside down with an opportunity to have their debut song a part of Queen Latifah's Flavor Unit compilation Roll with the Flavor. The unexpected party jam hit Hey Mr. DJ went gold and was eventually included on their debut in February '94, pronounced Janae. For those of you curious, it's just a little mashup of the lady's name in the tongue of Francais. More upbeat joints continue to pour out with the likes of Groove Thang and Vibe, but if those singles left you with the impression that these are just some party girls who happen to catch a lucky break, Jean and Renee packed in a few good ballads that showcase their high vibration vocals. Dive deep into the album on Love Me Today, For a Reason, and Sweet Taste of Love. They even get a little jazzy for us on La 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 to display their further range. Despite this platinum offering being a clear product of the 90s, the awesome production within has managed to age very well. The ladies did their soundtrack and hip-hop feature duties in between albums by way of A Low Down Dirty Shame and Busta Rhymes' It's a Party, respectively. In '97, they released their second and final album entitled Saturday Night, which was more or less a continuation of where they left off. No major drama or blow-ups as to why they parted ways. They just quietly fizzled out, unfortunately. As for where they are now, Young Mike went the route of the flow assist, while Late Mike lightly, loosely mimicked the songstress's path. And if these similes just went over your head, I'll let your local R&B lover born in the early 80s. Number 5, Age Ain't Nothing But a Number, Aaliyah. Who would have thought that some of the year's best albums would be powered by vocalists not even old enough to cop a pack of Newports or legally consent to make? You know what? Scratch that last thought. You've all heard enough about that chapter of Aaliyah Dana Houghton's story. But in all seriousness, ignorance was bliss when this album first dropped. The way Baby Girl covered the Isley Brothers' At Your Best, You Are Loved had us believe that she was indeed the song's originator. The only person to touch the quality of her rendition is Ronald's niece, Alex Isley. So definitely seek that version out for reference. The remix is even sweeter. but for some reason was never included on the album, nor any re-releases. Although the title track hits just a little different now that we analyze lyrics and have more context about the author behind them, Aaliyah's vocal performance is still front and center. Remember how we mentioned that little girl, 10 years old to be exact, who also did a rendition of My Funny Valentine? Well, Aaliyah was that girl, and outside of that, she really had no other notable public appearances. So when she burst on the scene with a beautiful voice, sporting baggy clothes in her debut single Back and Forth, people immediately took notice. Leah's youthful exuberance radiated loud enough to push the track to the top of the hip-hop and R&B charts and earn a gold selling certification. But the album also has some deep cuts that hold up equally well, including Young Nation, Old School, and I'm So Into You. And no, that last one is not a flip on the SWV song of the same name released 2 years prior. In addition to her musical legacy, Aaliyah's established a sense of style and influence that has gone on to fuel legions of artists far beyond this project's arrival and her untimely passing in 2001. We could start naming names, but we'll leave that to you, the theorists, down in the comments below. Number 4, Brandy. Your mama or your daddy may have said that 69 was a really good year, but we say so was 79, because less than 30 days after Aaliyah's grand entrance into the world, at the top of said year came Brandy Rihanna Norwood, or just simply Brandy, because fly chicks don't need to use their last names. As far as landmark career igniting albums are concerned, Brandy also mimicked Aaliyah's schedule there, this time by just over 4 months later, with an end of September drop of her eponymous LP. Again, no prior introduction to this young lady outside of her time on the Blink and You Missed It sitcom named Thea. Now that's an elite level throwback. Anyway, when you've got the right people behind the talent that's being presented, wonderful things can happen. Case in point, B's first pair of singles, I Wanna Be Down and Baby, easily went platinum out the gate, shooting quickly to the top of the hip hop and R&B charts. Those, along with follow-ups Best Friend and a remix version of Broken Hearted featuring one-time beau Wanya Morris from Boyz II Men, are tracks that could be fodder for Beat Shazam off their easily recognizable intro riffs alone. Garnering fans from a wide spectrum of ages and demographics was a breeze with her girl next door appeal and production values that were and are still all that in a bag of Lay's. Hey, it's the 90s list, right? We'll never understand why the powers that be decided to chop up I Dedicate into 3 separate interludes versus leaving it intact as a complete song. Keeping with the theme of similarity between B and A, the Always On My Mind track bears no resemblance to the version originated by those sisters with voices. Nor will you ever find the radio remixes of Broken Hearted or I Wanna Be Down alongside MC Lyte, The Queen Law, and Yo-Yo on the album.
It must be voodoo, cause baby I want you.
Yep, you'll have to check 2005's The Best of Brandy to hear those gems. As time quickly revealed, Brandy was able to escape the trappings of being relegated to a childhood star and has had a multi-layered career ever since. All that can be traced back to the success of this 4 times platinum album she gave us at the tender age of 15. Number 3, 2, Boyz II Men. These remaining top 3 albums have long since proven their staying power, and you probably got a playlist ready to go with tracks from each one. If you don't, make sure you take care of that after watching this video. When you take a group of young brothers with old souls, drive, and talent mixed in with a dash of hip-hop flavor, plus some of the industry's most prolific producers, what do you get? Oh, just a sophomore slam of a record titled 2 that goes directly to the top of multiple charts. Not to mention eventually reaching and eclipsing the elusive Diamond Sales certification. Well, before T-Bexx and Beyonce were feeling themselves, Michael, Sean, Nathan, and Wanye were rightfully so acting like their shit didn't stink with back-to-back platinum #1 singles in I'll Make Love to You and Bended Knee. Following Make Love's 14-week reign at the top of the Billboard 100, they became the first group of color to replace themselves in the same spot with Bended Knee. The last time that happened at all was back in the 60s by some group you may have heard of called The Beatles. Hot damn. So what could they possibly have left in the tank after making all that noise on top of what they already accomplished from Coolie High Harmony? Haha, funny you should ask. Because just when you thought the album and its promotion cycle were kaput, here comes Babyface supplying them with Water Runs Dry. Of course, it was no end of the road, but it was still a great love ballad that did respectable numbers. Not once to clutter up their LPs with throwaways. You can also continuously enjoy the likes of Yesterday, Thank You, and Jezebel. Shame on that girl's parents for giving her that name though. The now 3-man crew still does worldwide tours based around this album, so that alone tells you how monumental it was and how far its legacy goes. And there really is no other comparable group in the present day that's vibing the way they do. So we're gonna give them their flowers and enjoy them while we still can. Number 2, Crazy Sexy Cool TLC. Okay, real quick, if you've yet to peep our full-on review of TLC's catalog, no worries. We'll link to it at the end of this video. Spoiler alert, this is their best album. I know. What else could it have been, right? We already dropped the 411 on more than a few of their accolades achieved with their second outing, but a tad more interesting tidbits we didn't touch on are the facts that CSC parked his happy ass right up on the Billboard 200 for over 2 years. However, it stalled out 2 spots shy of the top spot during its tenure. Nothing to sneeze at because the amount of phenomenal music being released at the time was insane. Zero expenses were spared here as the ladies had the Dupree and Seal combo behind their super cool Kick Your Game, the same duo responsible for some of Mariah's biggest hits. Face, as in Baby, not Scar, most notably wrote and produced Diggin' on You and the ultra sexy Red Light Special. And the returning and ever-growing Dallas Austin supplied this little ditty right here. Because for all the guys out there claiming they stole another brother's girl, some woman's out there playing that part, right? Oddly enough, Puffy was only credited as a producer on a pair of skits and the Prince cover If I Was Your Girlfriend. Knowing what we know now about the Puffster, he gave us hints as far back as the Who Is It interlude on Total's debut album that he can be a role-playing scholar. Alright, hey, you know we like to have a little fun here at Culturalist Theory. But back to T-Bexx, Left Eye, and Chili. Yes, the most obvious and long-standing hit within is none other than the Organized Noise produced Waterfalls. Loved it in 94, 04, 14, and it remains in our hearts in 24. And we still rebuke all radio versions that cut out Lisa's rap verse. Speaking of Organized Noise, they also did the final track, Something Wicked This Way Comes, which features a fresh-faced Andre 3000 verse to boot before he took on said moniker or found his eclectic style of fashion. Even the intro with Phife Dawg and Can I Get a Witness interlude with Mr. Busta Rhymes were dope and warranted a few runbacks. With all that being said, there's only one left better than this from the 9-4 in the world of R&B. So without further ado, number 1, My Life, Mary J. Blige. Another instance where numbers don't tell the full story. When you ask 9 out of 10 people what's their favorite Mary J. Blige album, My Life is guaranteed to be the one with the most mentions. Equivalent to asking what's the first song that comes to mind when I say Digital Underground. See how that works? So yeah, this album didn't set or break any new milestones, nor did it have any extended stay on the charts. Unless you don't count debuting at the top of the hip hop and R&B charts and hanging out there for 8 weeks. It was at least in the running for a Best R&B Album Grammy, but not a single track from it was nominated or likewise touched number 1 or sold platinum. However, it scored the most points where it truly matters when it comes to music, and that's in listeners' hearts. Mary herself has shared many a story of just how impactful this collection of love, life, and pain has touched her fans worldwide, and the feelings that she felt and expressed here have yet to be surpassed. Puff and his Hitman production team were on the money here, intertwined with Blige's convincing deliveries. The way she covered Rose Royce's I'm Going Down as if she just lost her soulmate, immaculate. When Chuck puts on that smooth shit at Puff's direction, it turns out to be the title track, which perfectly adapts Ron Ayers' Everybody Loves the Sunshine. Mary offers up motivation to all, even though she herself is not in her best space, and that definitely should have been a single if you ask us. While not a dance song per se, You Bring Me Joy has those feel-good vibes that'll make you want to bop your head a little bit if nothing else, as does Mary Jane All Night Long. Infamous for all the classic soul samples within, you can't sleep on the few originals here either, such as You Gotta Believe with Big Bub or Mary's Joint, which will certainly have you feeling some kind of way. Really, at the end of the day, all Mary wants and from top to bottom of my life's track list, we can't be anything else but happy after every playthrough. 94 was a good year. If you didn't know, we've covered a couple of the artists listed here already. We're also thinking about throwing a Keith Sweat list at you, so if we get enough requests, we might just make that happen. Point or tap on your screen right here and here to catch reruns. Once again, I'm QB. I'll see you in the next one.